You ever wake up and feel like the air around you has weight? Like every breath is a reminder that nothing feels quite right? I mean, there's this quiet ache, a kind of dull throb behind your eyes, and you can't really pin down why. It's not sadness exactly, more like a hollowing out. You look around and everything seems flat, colors muted, even the sky feels distant. You think, who am I kidding trying to feel okay today? And you push the covers back, but your bones feel heavy, and you wonder if this dull ache is the way life is for you now. I remember a day like that not too long ago. It was early morning before dawn, and I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while the world outside got lighter without me. I knew I had to get up. There were responsibilities waiting, but I kept my eyes shut as if pretending I was asleep would buy me more time. My mind was a carousel of thoughts I didn't want to ride. What if you never feel happy again? What if you're broken? They weren't loud voices, just quiet suggestions that kept echoing. And so I stayed under the covers until the pillow was damp against my cheek, until the weight of doing anything felt like too much. Eventually, I dragged myself out of bed and stumbled into the bathroom. I caught sight of myself in the mirror, my eyes puffy, my hair a mess, and felt this sharp sting of recognition. That person staring back at me was me, but also not me. I washed my face, and for a moment the cold water shocked me, and I felt something, maybe a pulse of something like a heartbeat that said, I'm still here. But then it slipped away, leaving behind that same emptiness. I decided to walk outside, hoping motion would break the spell. The street was quiet, just me and the hush of early morning. I felt small under the pale sky, like an unmoored leaf drifting in no particular direction. And somewhere between the lampposts and the silent houses, I thought, I don't even know what I'm looking for. Happiness? Peace? Maybe just a moment that doesn't feel like a dull ache. And I realized I was searching for something I couldn't articulate. I didn't know what happiness was supposed to look like anymore. It all felt like shapes without edges, ideas without names. A few blocks in, I passed an old bookstore with its door cracked open. Inside, the smell of paper and dust greeted me, and I paused as if on instinct. I walked in, ran my fingers along the spines of books I'd never read, and felt a flicker of something. Curiosity, maybe. Someone had left a book face out on a small table near the window. Its cover was creased and the title faded. I picked it up, an old paperback collection of poetry. I sat on a stool by the window and flipped it open without really looking for a particular poem. The words weren't cures or revelations, just someone's honest attempt to name feeling, to give it shape. A line said something like, even emptiness is a kind of music. And for the first time that morning, it felt like permission, a quiet permission to dwell where I was, without pretending to be anywhere else. I closed the book and walked home, holding it like something fragile. That afternoon, I sat on the floor of my apartment, leaning against the couch, and opened the book again. I read that line over and over, even emptiness is a kind of music. It struck me that I had been so afraid of the emptiness, as if it meant something was wrong with me. But what if it was something to listen to instead? What if it was like a rest in a piece of music, a pause that makes the notes before and after matter more? I let that idea sit without dissecting it too much. I didn't know if it meant I was going to be okay tomorrow or the day after. I just let it be something soft to hold on to while everything else felt raw. Later, I cooked dinner. It wasn't a special recipe or anything fancy, just pasta with tomato sauce. I remember watching the steam curl off the pot, smelling the garlic and basil, and realizing that I cared enough to feed myself. There's something ordinary about cooking for yourself, something that feels grounding when your insides are swirling. My hands moved almost on autopilot, chopping onions, stirring the sauce, tasting it when it was ready. And as mundane as it was, I felt a small sense of pride, like I had accomplished something critical, like the very act of nourishment was a victory. That evening I called a friend. I didn't mean to unload everything on them, but the words came anyway. I told them how I felt like a ghost in my own life, how I couldn't remember the last time I laughed without forcing it. They didn't give me speeches or tell me to snap out of it. They just listened and every now and then said, "I'm here," in that way that felt like a hug over the phone. We didn't solve anything. We just existed together through the phone lines, two voices in the dark. And that was enough. A week later, I found myself at a crowded cafe, waiting for coffee. The barista handed me a cup and it was hot, the steam still rising, and the scent sharp with roasted beans. I held it between my hands for warmth. I watched people around me, couples leaning in to talk, someone typing away on a laptop, someone else reading a book. For a second, it looked like a window into a world where everything was normal. And I thought, I'm still here, and so is this world, even if I feel detached from it. I took a sip and it was bitter and sweet all at once. It made me wince, but in a way that felt alive. There was a time when I was a kid, maybe 5 or 6, sitting on my grandma's front porch. She had this big rocking chair, and I nestled into her lap, and she was reading me a story about a girl who got lost in the woods but found her way home. I don't remember the words exactly, just the way her voice sounded like a lullaby. And I remember feeling safe, like nothing could touch me as long as I was there with her. I think about that often when I feel lost now, how simple and absolute that sense of safety was. It wasn't about the story, it was about being held and knowing that someone else knew what to do. Now, I don't have my grandma's lap, but I have memories of that feeling. And maybe that's enough to remind me that safety can be internal too, that I can find my way back from feeling lost, but it'll take the same kind of patient presence I felt in her arms. Some nights I lie awake thinking, what if this is it? What if I never feel light again? And the thought is terrifying, but I don't push it away anymore. I let it sit beside me like a shadow. I tell myself, it's okay to be afraid. I don't have to banish the fear to be alive. And sometimes I wonder, what if I tried something small, like setting an alarm 15 minutes earlier and just sitting in silence with a cup of tea? Nothing monumental, just a moment to be with whatever is. I don't know if it will change anything, but it feels less like a rule and more like an experiment. What if I give myself 5 minutes without distraction and see what happens? This week, I spent 10 minutes watching the sky outside my window. Nothing fancy, just me and the sky turning from pale blue to orange. At first, I felt nothing but the dull ache, but gradually I noticed the way a cloud drifted across the sun, the way the light caught the edges of a building. It's not like I suddenly felt sunshine in my heart. It was more like I was letting myself notice that I was breathing. And for someone who feels like they're living underwater, gasping for air, I'll take noticing a cloud any day. I wish I could promise I know what works. I wish I could say, do this and you'll be happy again. But I can't. All I know is that I've been in that hollow place where everything felt flat and muted, and I'm still here, talking to you. And maybe right now, that's enough. Maybe letting yourself see what's there, even if it hurts, is part of coming back. So if you're sitting there and the world feels grey, and you think happiness is a door you closed and lost the key to, I'll just say this. You're not a broken person. You're a person who has been through something, and now you're carrying that weight. It's okay to feel stuck in that space. It doesn't mean you'll always be stuck. In fact, it's probably part of the process. You might find that happiness doesn't come back in a flood, but in small flickers. A poem that resonates, the steam from a cup of coffee, a memory of being held when you were little. You don't need a grand plan. You need moments of presence and permission to feel. I want you to know that sitting with it is brave, not running from it, not pretending it's not there. That's where healing begins. And maybe healing is just noticing the emptiness as a kind of music, letting yourself be raw enough to feel quiet things. Maybe it's trying one small thing at a time, like watching a sunset or calling a friend or reading something that speaks to you. And if it works, it won't feel like a checklist. It will just feel like breathing. So here we are, late at night, you and me. I don't have all the answers, and I'm not here to give you a roadmap. I'm just here to tell you that feeling like you'll never be happy again is something people think in the dark. And it's not the end of the story. It's a chapter, one that asks you to be patient with yourself, to trust that the dull ache can lift, even if it takes time you didn't think you had. You might find glimmers of light when you least expect them, in the ordinary, in the curve of a cloud, in a friend's voice, in a memory of safety. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to keep showing up for yourself in small ways.